ready if you are.
I didn't know we got straight into the room. Okay, fantastic. Fantastic. Liz, if you allow me, I'm going to do a little introduction in Chinese, and then I'll come right back to you. Okay. All right.
Wonderful.
Yeah. 大家好，看一下哈，哇，特别高兴又看到所有的朋友们，欢迎来到碧山讲堂。这是我们第57期公益的线上活动，也是今年春节前的最后一期中文的活动，actually 英文的活动。我是张梅 ，Wild China 碧山旅行和碧山讲堂的创始人，欢迎新朋友、老朋友。马上要过年了哈，所以呢，我们去年一年确实是对所有的人都不太容易那这次一定要红红火火的来过。就这个原因呢，我们专门为大家请来了专门过 party 的专家。这个 Liz Haenle 呢，是原来在白宫真的是做了很多这样子的 party， 请他来跟我们分享一下如何点亮我们的日常生活那今天的 Liz 中文的名字叫戴丽翠，我给大家介绍一下 ，right？ Liz 大家已经看到她的形象了，漂漂亮亮的。她是那种在 party 上你遇到跟她一聊天以后你就从来不会忘记的人。她首先漂亮能干，对吧？然后呢，她穿的衣服总是特别的得体，特别的典雅。尽管她生了2个孩子，然后又创了2个公司，但是完全没有那种疲于奔命的狼狈。很多妈妈，包括我自己在内，经常会有的那种狼狈哈。你就觉得她就是罗马假日里头的奥黛丽·赫本。I think you're the Audrey Hepburn from Roman holidays, always pretty and beautiful.
Thank you.
她经常在家里头摆宴会，然后各种各样的那些小的细节呀，非常的贴心，很有创意。我就不剧透了，待会儿她具体给我们讲她怎么做的哈。一点点说她的简历。她从96年在那个美国亚特兰大奥运会的时候就开始组织大型的那种活动，后来到白宫以后呢，在白宫她是做那个礼宾秘书和副总统官邸的那个总监。待会儿我们可以问问他这个工作到底是做什么的他当然也包括了那个副总统官邸的那些室内装饰呀、设计呀和执行呀。那离开了白宫，在那做了8年，离开了白宫的8年以后呢，他做了2家公司，他自己创业的，现在是一个叫 Sage Worldwide 的联合创始人和主席。这是一家专门预定世界上最有名的这些演讲者的公司。比如说，如果大家在中国开个什么会需要请总统、副总统来参与的话，他们公司就负责牵线搭桥，就是把这事儿给搞定了。Liz 和她老公呢，其实大家不知道，他们一直是中国通，一直很长时间，过去10年了吧，都住在中国，现在也是在中国和Cape Cod 之间来回跑。那今天他就从美国的 Cape Cod 家也是在那避难，那个疫情躲在家，在家避難，從 Cape Cod 來參加。So Liz, thank you so much. I understand you are dialing in from Cape Cod. Would you say a few words of welcome to?
Good morning, May, to you. I just want everyone who's watching to know where May is. It's 5:30 in the morning, so it's bright and early for you. And it's 8:30 where I am, and so I'm still having my coffee, May. And I bet some of your friends in China getting ready for the new year might be having a glass of wine.
Yeah.
Maybe thinking about what Chinese New Year is going to be like this year, because for us, we're typically in Beijing, setting out for maybe some travel in Southeast Asia, but because of coronavirus, I've been here in Cape Cod now a year, and I'll tell you that's the most Chinese I've had in a long time. So thank you for that lovely introduction.
所以他跑到在 Cape Cod 很少听到讲中文了，所以我在这叨讲了半天，是很多的。
Right. We don't have a big Chinese community, but for people to know where I am, you'll see this lovely snow behind me. I'm just outside of Boston, and I think most of your folks in China will know Boston. And so I'm about an hour from Boston, right on the water here in Cape Cod.
他住那地儿哈，叫北戴河，就是中国的北戴河的 equivalent。I would say 一个北戴河 equivalent， 但是它是在一个岛上，在波士顿开车过去1个多小时的地方，后面还下雪呢。 We have peach blossoms and camellias blooming in the yard.
That's amazing. You know, my mother is in the South and they have camellias blooming, but we don't really have too many camellias here. Yeah. And the first thing that will pop up for us would be a daffodil flower or forsythia. Forsythia is a common flower that we share between here and China.
I don't even know that flower.
It's a yellow sort of shrub-like. And then after that would be the cherry blossoms that would come.
That's 迎春 and 水仙. So
right.
这些花它的是它的春天.
And then of course the peony, which is that Mudan?
Mudan, that's almost summer already.
So we have those come on the early side here of spring. It's a different variety, but they bloom first. And they're always a great reminder of China.
Right, yeah. 那些都是美国东部很典型的花，也是很多是从中国来的 right? So I'll just briefly go through today's run of process. 今天呢，咱们这么着，因为 Liz 她在那岛上，她怕她信号不好，所以她提前给我们录了10分钟的一个小视频，介绍她做的这些事情。然后呢，我们先看一下10分钟，然后我跟 Liz 做一个大概20分钟的对话，我们会留出再有几分钟的时间 ，Liz 可能给大家做一个演示，然后最后留出点时间来，我们再一起聊聊天，提提问。Okay, so Liz, I understand you actually made a video to show us how you do it. Would love to see that.
Not everything, but I'll tell you, thanks for having me and allowing me to share. These are just a few tips to help some of your guests think about how to build their own table.
Great. 就是他给大家讲讲咱们怎么摆桌子哈。那我们请讲堂助理给我们先放一下 We'll watch it right now.
Hi everyone. Today I'm going to share with you a little bit about my collection of china and dishware and linens in hopes that we can help you build your own tablescapes. In America we call setting your table, styling your table, tablescapes. So for me, it's a joy and great pleasure to share with you and hope you can pick up some tips based on how I do it and some ideas that I have to make it not so hard, but more fun and more unique to your style. So for me, becoming the White House Social Secretary for the Vice President, it was very easy to think I could enjoy this job because my mother and grandmother are still great entertainers. My grandmother at age 95 still cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for family, friends, and neighbors every Sunday. And it's just something I grew up with. And my mother's a great entertainer as well. Between the two of them, I think they have probably 30 sets of dishes. And so today I'll share with you a little bit about my own collection, how I do it, and then maybe you can start your own tablescape unique to your entertaining style. Let me start with some basics that I think are must-haves. I like to combine things high and low. And so with that, I mean, on the inexpensive side, something as basic as this bone white china plate, inexpensively picked up by me at a kitchen market just outside of Beijing that's now, I think, closed. But you see it's bone white. It's slightly oversized, which I like. White china allows food to show up as the art itself. So there have been studies that someone actually produced that shows that a white bone plate allows food to show its truest color. And I still say that the real art that comes to the table for dining is the food itself. So starting with a basic white plate, I would highly encourage everybody to have. Now, in terms of how this all works, you know you need a salad plate and soup bowls and all of those things. But I never buy a full set of anything. I always like to mix and match. And you can see I have a pink vintage lusterware plate here. And I wouldn't be partial to pink if it were not for my 3-year-old daughter, who I've already started this collection for. She already likes to have fancy lunches and dinner parties. But you see how a white base plate can allow you to bring in colors and different themes quite easily. Right now I'm in a coastal town in America, where we have a place. And as my husband and my IE can attest, I like to take dishes across borders. And so it's very common for my husband and IE to tell you that I will put plates that I find somewhere in my suitcase and bring them where I'm traveling to for entertaining. So for this one, this is just an inexpensive white salad. Could be a salad or a dessert plate with a blue trim. Where I am currently in a coastal community, you can see we have themes more along the lines of nature, blues, greens, natural raffia, to reflect more of nature's beauty and the sea and sky colors. I'll show you another combination here that I think you'll find interesting. This is a mint green, beautiful charger, oversized. I found at Liangmachao Market. I think I paid maybe $3 for 12 of them. And it goes so well here with my coastal vintage dinner plates. But, you know, if I'm having sushi or a Chinese dish, I'll put my chopsticks right there together. The placemat in this case is actually handcrafted in Sri Lanka. So you can see again, I'm mixing interesting conversation pieces from my travel to themes local to the area. Another tablescape that I like is this inexpensive number. These raffia liners, which I'm using as chargers now, are really from a local yard sale or garage sale where someone had them as secondhand and I picked them up inexpensively. We have a lot of fish here and lobster. So the practicality of these plates are that you can wash them. They're plastic, they go right in the dishwasher, and they're easy to handle. I do love the new quality of designs of plastic plates, and that's where I sort of inch out of my comfort zone from the past. I think my mother and grandmother would have probably never used paper or plastic plates, but they're such good quality now and such great designs. Look at what happens when I put this blue and white on my white charger. It just becomes a whole new idea and color scheme. The Chinese plate that I have here, I think you'll love this story. Again, a great quality plastic plate. It's one that my husband had some 20 years ago when he lived in China. But we're missing China right now, and we love the idea of putting our Chinese takeout right on these fun plates, and my kids can handle it and go sit on TV trays and have dinner. Chinese takeout here being not as good as what we are used to in Beijing, but they at least get the idea and the feeling of the culture when they're eating it on these fun plates that we've kept over the years. The other thing that I think you need to think about as you add to your collection are the linens. I mentioned this placemat was handcrafted. This is another handcrafted, more local design with the blues and whites from old weavers here in the village that I'm in. These are inexpensive, made in China, but picked up at IKEA, and they're wipeable. And so that's really practical if you have young kids. These were made in China and bought in China at a little restaurant market, again, wipeable. These, just to give you an idea, I got at IKEA also a raffia that I love that was dyed the perfect French blue for what I use here. And then these are a little more high-end in that they're raffia made in a coastal community here. I think linens are really about your personal taste in color, but again, if you can think about decorating your table and making your own tablescape like you would dressing yourself. You wouldn't dress yourself in head to toe Louis Vuitton even if you could afford to, or H&M if you're going on a budget. You mix and match and you layer, and that's what I would encourage you to do with your own tables. You layer based on themes and what you're doing, what the occasion is. I always say it's great to have a wonderful white linen napkin. You can use them for anything. They never are wrong to use. It's never wrong to use a white linen napkin. And these are from our wedding over 10 years ago, and I've saved them and I use them daily. Even for our takeout and our practicality of eating every day, I often use a cloth napkin that I can throw in the washes that will wash up well and avoid most paper napkins, because I just still like the art of having a cloth napkin for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The napkin rings, I'll share with you a couple of napkin rings. This one my mother-in-law sent me, made by artisans in Mexico. I love those, and they're quite versatile for my beach theme. These are raffia that I picked up here in the village, again at a yard sale. And so I think you can see I really do like finding a good bargain, and I also like highlighting artisans around the world. These are handcrafted blue cobalt glasses from Mexico. These have a shell motif because that works well here along the beach. These I picked up as coasters in Southeast Asia, handmade by some women artisans. So again, bowls, cups, glasses, linens, all due to what I think of as layering your table. They all work. They're interchangeable, and I enjoy deciding what the occasion is and what I'm going to use to have some fun with my tablescape, but also at times to be a conversation piece. Some of these pieces, you know, someone might say, oh, well, where did you get this? And then I have a story to tell. Oh, when I was in China one day, going through a market, I saw these plates and I thought how fabulous they would be to have for my base luncheon plate. And then it ultimately leads to something else I want to share in terms of living in China, or just expanding upon various aspects of setting our table. Thank you for letting me share. We'll get more into the conversation of, you know, how to select some of these things. We can also talk about silverware, bowls, teacups, and any other questions or thoughts you have about building your own linen and china closet. Thank you.
This is amazing, Liz. I always know you have creativity. But for you to present it in a way that I haven't seen before, I got to learn a little bit more. A couple of things that jumped out at me.
Sure.
One is you look at it as the way you dress. The mix and match and the layering. I don't think of dinner tables like that. That's one. And two is you have 30 sets of dishes. Where do you even store them? That's two. And three is it really doesn't break the bank to have a beautiful event. I mean, these are my sort of three learnings.
Sure. So the dressing of the table really has taken on as a fashion statement here in America. And we really do call them tablescapes. So you might have landscaping for your garden. Well, we have tablescaping indoors and outdoors for our tables. So today I've set a table for you inside. In the summer, I entertain probably from May to October outside, very few meals inside unless the weather, it's raining. And that begins a whole nother look. But tablescaping really is an art form of design and fashion. And I would just say that, like I said, you know, you take time to put on your sweater and your earrings and your necklace. So why not set the table, you know, the base, the dress, if you will, could be a tablecloth or your linen placemats. And then you add accessories like napkins, which are like your earrings, and your napkin rings are like your bracelets or rings. I mean, so it really is that kind of thought process. Why not dress your table like you would dress yourself or a Barbie? In my little girl's case, it's how do you dress and layer the Barbie? So the second question was what was that one?
You had 30 sets. Where do you store
30 sets. Okay, so I never buy a full set. Here's another secret. Sets would be 5 to 7 place settings, and I would never buy the full set. In fact, I'm always the person that goes into the store and says, well, I don't want the cup and saucer for that. I only want the base plate. So for many of my sets, if you will, I might only buy one part of it. I might only buy the dinner plate or the salad plate. So for my bone white china that I talked about, this lovely white plate that you saw in the video, I bought only this and only the salad plate, because I would never want to just put 5 pieces of all white on my table. So unless it was a wedding or something where I really was going for a very defined look. I always buy different, I break up the sets, if you will. So it doesn't look like you go into my closets. And by the way, I have taken over part of the basement at this point. I have shelving of it, but you don't go to the shelf or the linen closet and say, oh, here's my, one set of 5 same pieces. It literally is mix and match colors. I'll organize it by dinner plates in one section, salad plates in one section, but never a full set of anything. So the only thing I buy full sets of, I would say, is silverware and sterling silver.
Right. So when you say a set, let's say the bone white plates, do you buy 12 of them? Or?
It's a very good question. I thought about that as something I wanted to share. I always, even at a yard sale, you'll go to it. We have yard sales here. This is how we get rid of our things, right? I don't think they do it so much in China, but you do it on, maybe do it on WeChat. You sell things on WeChat. Here, people set up in their yards their old wares, and people can stop by and buy them. And that's kind of a fun treasure hunting, as we say. It's my going to Panjiayuan in Beijing. It's the equivalent. So, and you barter and all of that, but you very rarely would get a full 8, 10, or 12 place settings. Right. So, or 12 plates. I try to buy as many of something as I can. If I really like it, I'll buy 12, because my dinner table stretches to 12. And often in Beijing, I would have a luncheon or dinner party for as many as 12 to 15. But if it's 4, I buy it. Even if it's 2 and I really like it, I will buy it, because often I'll have a 4-person luncheon or dinner party and 2 is enough. And then I'll mix it with another pair of something I like. So as long as there are 2 of the same thing and you really like it, buy it. But buy as much as 12 if you're entertaining in large scale like that.
Okay, this is very selfish, so I'm going to push this question just a tiny bit. I freak out when I don't have enough of the same thing on my table.
Right.
Let's say I broke a plate. Now I have 11 of the set. Then I found myself almost like, in limbo. I don't know how to use the 11.
Right. Okay. So that's when you just tear the sheet up that's trained your brain, that study sheet that's trained your brain to say, I have to have it this way. If you love it, you then mix it, break it in half. Say you have 10 people coming, use 5 of what you have of that 11, and then mix, alternating every other place setting with another set. So you really do have to have at least 2 sets to make that work. But you have to let go of ever having that complete 12 again, right? You just might use 5 at a time, or just, like I said, alternate. Now, one thing that I did, and we should have it for another conversation, I had the same issue. I broke the 12th place setting of our wedding china. The china that was given to us by our family and friends, and it had a very special significance of history all the way back to President George Washington. It's the china he uses at his home in the United States, Mount Vernon. Guess what I did when I came to China? This is where you can have things done in China you can't have done anywhere else. I took the broken china in my suitcase back to Beijing with me, and I went to the shard box. And they made beautiful silver boxes from my broken pieces of china. And then I gave it to all of our family, those little, do you know the shard boxes? Yes. Do you know what a shard box is? Going back to one of the dynasties, maybe one of your guests might know, a shard box was made of old broken porcelain from the Tang dynasty, I believe it was. And they would take the broken porcelain and put silver around it and make it into a box. This is a business called, it's right in over by Homuja. Yeah, it's over in that area. There's a little store called Shard Box, and they make these boxes from broken porcelain. So I had that broken porcelain made into beautiful boxes. Some were as big as an inch by an inch, but on the bigger piece of china that was broken, I had a box like this. And then I gave it back to our family as gifts and mementos with a note from my husband and me, thanking them for being part of our special day. And what, making something as beautiful as this out of broken china. It was sort of like making lemonade out of rotten lemons or something.
Way better than I have to speak in Chinese for a little bit, but because I find it so inspiring. 刚才我跟他聊的这些哈，主要是对我很有启发，所以呢，我想给大家就翻过来讲一下。刚才的 video 和我们的谈话里头，大家有没有发现，他把桌子看成一个女人穿衣打扮？那个铺的那个桌布就是她的裙子，然后上面放的什么盘子呀、napkin 呀，然后那个 napkin 的那个环儿啊，就是餐巾的那个环儿啊，那些东西，她都把它看作耳环、项链什么的，一层一层一层的把她的桌子搭起来。我觉得这个概念以前至少我自己是没有这样想过，我觉得这个很好哈。再一个，他说他有30套对桌子布景。非常好，它的这个布景这个词儿，大家可以花园布景，可以拍电影的时候也可以有布景，但是他把它桌子当做布景。然后呢，再一个呢是他有30套的这些餐具，我大概从我老公的什么爷爷奶奶那里继承了一些，我就觉得太多了，我应付不了。但是呢，我每一套12件，我都要一次同样的。他呢把它拆开用，他从来不摆的。So when you have 12 pieces, you find it a little too rigid, too formal. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, again, it's my thinking is why dress in all head to toe Louis Vuitton just because you can? That's because Louis Vuitton wants you to. You're going with the norm. That's why I say that's the study sheet that you rip up. And in order to make it interesting, do your own thing.
Right. 这一块他就打破了我的一个固定的思维模式。我总是12个盘子、12个碗什么的都是一模一样的一套的，我才用。破了一个，我这一套我就不知道怎么使了。他呢，他说你为什么要从头到脚的都穿 LV 啊？那是因为 LV 这品牌是让你这么着穿，对吧？但是你把这个规则撕掉，重新来。他比如说请10个人吃饭呢，他可能5个用的是一套，另外5个用的是一套，但是他把它间隔开来。拆开一个这样一个那样，一个这样一个那样，所以呢，它就可以这些就更有自己的特色，更有混搭的美，而不是从头到脚。哪怕你很有钱，你也不会，所有的都是 Gucci， 所有的都是 LV， 对吧？然后最后一点，他说的是很逗的，他买东西，他在原来他们有一套乔治华盛顿那里给他们的一套这个瓷器。碎了一个盘子什么的，他把那些碎片拿到中国去呢，请应该是在798那边和睦家那边，他把他那有一个小店呢，这些碎片他就给它做成小盒子，就变成非常漂亮的、有历史意义又有个人意义的礼物，拿去送人了，带到美国来再送人。所以我觉得在中国这些东西，我们问他一下，就他就是做的很有创意。So Liz. Another thing that I noticed, like, in the West, your shopping is garage sale and IKEA and all these things. China, in some ways, was your playground. You moved there when you were pregnant with us, right? That was 10 years ago.
Yeah, almost 11 now.
So how did you enjoy like the China setting for your creativity?
Oh, wow. I have to tell you, you and I have talked a little bit about this before, but, I can sit at my desk and run a business. And, what really inspires me is getting up and moving and going to see culture. And, I just want to say to you, I feel for you because we're missing traveling. And that is such an inspiration for me. I do research even before, China's one playground in itself, but even before I travel to Sri Lanka or Siem Reap, I would do research on what the local crafts are and make a point of going to look at linens or silver makers, always artisans in wherever community village I was going. So, travel for me is the biggest inspiration, but in Beijing in particular, oh, wow, it is just an incredible playing ground. And so I lived in Xinjiang Guoji, and I would sit at my desk and I would be so busy and have a writer's block or be working on something. And I just knew I needed to get up and get out and see something beautiful. And, I sometimes write down the beauty of Beijing, and it could be going over to Rattan Park near my home, or Panjiayuan was just, for me, I could stay all day, as my family would know. But really, it wasn't just Panjiayuan. That's one place that people know. But I went, really sometimes hour and a half outside of Beijing, and would find, makers of little raffia boxes, or hammered silver, or just old things, cricket boxes, all of these things that no one probably would think of as being an interesting conversation piece. But this is just a little piece of a carved wooden box that a farmer had made outside of Beijing. And I have it on my table almost every meal, and my daughter just thinks it's the most amazing thing. And it's really about getting outside of your home, sometimes as simple as looking at nature, but meeting people. And even on the sides and margins of the parks, I still see people making beautiful paper cuttings, local crafts that are just really interesting layers for your table or conversation pieces. But yes, Beijing, in a city of 20 million people, I could get lost in the beauty of Beijing very quickly.
Yeah, I noticed you have 2 pagodas behind you.
Yeah.
Do you do this kind of landscaping or setscaping even when you are on Zoom?
Sure. So of course, I mean, now we're all on Zoom and you have to have a background, and I don't subscribe to virtual backgrounds, so I'm careful what my backgrounds are. I will tell you, this is a plastic resin pagoda that I picked up at a home store here very inexpensively, just because I thought it was so fun. And I still like, no matter where I am, for my family to have references to where our home is. And we consider our home Beijing. So we're in a summer cottage, but home is Beijing. And so in the other windows around the house, we still have paper cuttings to celebrate Chinese New Year. And those stay up year round, because, we want to have those connections back to China for our family. This, I'm going to pick it up because I want your audience to see, this is really heavy. And I got this in a market in Shanghai in 2003 when I came with Vice President Cheney to China. And it's so heavy, but I put it in my suitcase, and it was a brass color. And when I got back here, I had it silvered. So it was one of those things that you would see at a market. I knew the sculpture aspect of it was really beautiful, but I didn't like the brass color. And so I had it resilvered here. Yeah. Yes, I like my backgrounds to be also scaped.
It's just amazing. You just have little beauty everywhere. So again, 刚才的这块我也想说一下哈。因为他家是北京，他在北京的时候其实就跟我说过这个理念，就是北京就像一个大的游乐场，对他这种特别有创意的人来讲哈，中国你有一些想法的时候，可以非常便宜的就可以找到那些手工艺人呀，把你的这些想法给实现了。所以他在北京的时候，他就会比如说出去到日坛公园呀，或者是开车1个小时出去郊区呀，一出去，他的眼睛就在看所有的这些，只要是手工做的东西， 很有可能就被他搬回家了。然后呢是不知道什么地方，他就可以很创意的给他用起来。他每次旅行的时候都会问我的，他都会提前做研究，比如说去柬埔寨呀，去斯里兰卡呀，当地有什么东西是有特色的手工艺品，他就会提前研究在哪个店的好。会买。So how do you do your research about what to shop for a destination? Some tips there.
It's really a range of things. First of all, books. I still really like tangible travel books. And of course, the internet is just so remarkable now. But I dig deep. And I have a few designers I like to follow and look for inspiration. And if I see that they've traveled to the region, I might see what they recommended. But it's really travel magazines, some designers, and then just good old research on the internet or in books myself. Mm-hmm. And so I would just encourage too, because I think this is really important to my friends in China. China is really about a lot of new things. When I go to people's homes, you see everything is new often, and it's a sign and show of success. And I appreciate that. But I think some of the more interesting conversations I have at dinner parties with friends in China often reflect their own history. And it could be a mother's hand-me-down of something, or something they bought when they too traveled. And so that's what I just want to encourage our friends in China to think about, is using things from travel, creating their own family history, and not having to feel like it has to be all new to look beautiful, because it doesn't. And that's why I say to rip up that tear sheet that you studied about having 11 pieces or 12 perfect pieces of china. It's not that perfect. Your life isn't that perfect. And it's much more interesting to have it layered and have stories to tell.
That is philosophical, very insightful. 他就说，在中国的时候，看见很多朋友家里头的东西都是特别的崭新的，对吧？摆桌子要12件什么的。其实他要讲的就是，真正最有意思的对话都来自于各自家里头的历史呀、故事呀，可能是你奶奶给你传下来的一个什么东西，你从来不会去想去用它，什么都是要新买的一套，新买的盘子，新买的。你把这些旧的东西拿出来的时候，跟人对话的时候，首先你有故事可讲，再一个这个就是你不需要按照那个叫什么礼仪书上教你的，什么东西都是要一套一套的。你把这个打破这个固定的思维，你这样子做出来的才是你更有特色的。因为它不完美，但是其实人生本来就不完美，但是它的故事会更有意思。I just absolutely love what you just said. I still have a few questions, but I'm conscious of the time.
For sure.
So I would love to see you have a demonstration for us somehow.
Yeah. Sure. What we'll do is I've set a table for Chinese New Year for our family. Because of COVID, it's just 4 of us. So we're still not entertaining openly in the United States because of COVID. So for the last year, we've been very conscientious about having dinners and lunches and breakfast to celebrate all occasions. And it's really about setting the table and picking themes so that even if it's just the 4 of us, we still do what we would be doing if there were 12 of us coming for dinner. And so I want to share with you a little bit about how we're going to celebrate the New Year of the Ox this next week. Is that okay?
That's fantastic. Before you go, let me just ask one practical question. So do you have at home, do you have tables set all day long, or you set table for each meal?
It's set table for each meal, and we move around. So what's really nice is, so in Beijing, because we lived in one apartment, we tended to have every meal at one table. And it was, I also want to just say the glory, and I encourage my friends in China not to push for so much development in Beijing that you lose this other unique thing about China. In Beijing, I had my table custom made. I could have things done like that in China that you can't do here. And so I loved entertaining at this one table in China because I could make it for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and I could adjust the size of it based on how many people were coming. But even here, we move about for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and we still have a dressed table. Right now, we're studying history with my son, and my placemats reflect all of the American presidents. So we literally do that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. It's a sit down meal, and it's all of us together, and it usually has some little theme. This month is Black History Month in America, and this morning I had a book out reading Langston Hughes, a famous African-American poet, reading poetry. So, you know, just a little something I try to think about for each meal. What are we going to be talking about? And how to even put it in, even put it into the placemats. So, you know, keeping it simple, of course, because we're all so busy. But that was just one thing. This month, I want to focus on the year of the ox, the strength of the ox, the endurance of the ox. I want to think about Chinese New Year, Valentine's Day, and Black History Month. So there are already 4 themes right there. And it's only 28 days in the month. So we have a lot to cover.
Oh my God, it's like your classroom for your children.
It really is. And I'll just, before we pause and do the demonstration, I will say that I've read studies, and I'm a firm believer of having as many meals with your family as you can are so important to the growth of every member of the family. And I would just say that it is something that I remember having one table for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And my parents made sure we were all seated for dinner, and that we tried to do as many together as we could, because it's a real bonding time, a time for you to ask questions of your parents, and for you as parents to ask questions of your kids. And they're all teachable moments. And I remember that, and it's so fondly growing up. It doesn't have to be a fancy table, but just having the idea of everybody being down at one time during the day is a really good thing for kids and parents.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll log out now and then come back on. Okay.
I will share what you just said. Go ahead. Yeah. 现在他去给我们，他用手机重新进来，让我们看一下他为他们家人摆的这个牛年过节的这个桌子。刚才他讲的这些东西，对我个人也蛮有影响的，因为我认识太多的朋友，他们可能一天3餐是各吃各的，从来见不着面。家里头都是谁饿了去冰箱里翻点什么东西，但是在他们家一天3餐他都摆桌子，而且那个桌子呢就是他的一个教室。他可能会有个主题，比如说这个月是讲这个中国的春节呀，情人节呀，那这个主题呢，在他的桌上有一定的体现，然后他也可能会拿出一本书来跟这个相关的，跟孩子们讲讲这段时间这个主题的故事呀，等等，最后的这个 comment， 他最后讲这一点，我特别想，就咱们这讲堂里的同学，也听一下，他就是说吃饭。只要有可能，他坚决相信全家人一定要尽可能多的时间坐在一起吃饭，因为餐桌就是大家一起分享、一起交流的时间。他们家3餐，我们家是每天的晚餐都是在一起吃的，一定是大家坐下来摆好桌子一起吃的。Okay, Liz.
Hi. Welcome to my Chinese New Year dinner. My family, they're all at school right now or out, and they don't know this, but this is going to be their Chinese New Year of the Ox. We are missing Chinese hot pot. So we're going to create our own hot pot. For the first time, they will have, here it's a fondue pot is what it's called. So I picked up a fondue pot. I would love from your audience some recipes for, a mushroom brothy base, but I was just planning on a broth base recipe. I picked up a great book here. If you can see this, I'll hold it a little closer. A Chinese takeout book. And I was just going to do some of our favorites from Mongolian and Chinese hot pot vegetables, mushrooms, but maybe some beef. And I'm super excited because the pot is red. So it all color scheme. You can see here on this table, I always have candles, even for my 3-year-old. I've taught her not to touch, but I like candles for everything. I think, even at lunchtime right now, candles still add a sense of warmth. But I've mixed the china for you, May, to see, who's worried about mixing china. For Dad and me, I have the bone white china and a heart place setting. I do place cards for every member of the family. So even though we always sit at the same place, it's just nice to see Mom. And sometimes I'll have my 3-year-old make the place cards with me, or my son. But it's just a simple little heart, and I've written, Mom on it. And there's Dad, and there's Maybao and Dodo. I'll tell you, Dodo is the name my 3-year-old has given her older brother because she couldn't say Guga. So he's named Dodo. And so Maybao and Dodo and Mama and Baba have their own place cards. But the other thing that I thought I'd like to share with your guests is, just having a little gift at each place setting. These are already tied this way and in red tissue paper. I asked the store to wrap them that way to save me some time. But we like birds. And I know in China, incredible bird watching happening in nature and in the parks there. And these inside are a particular red bird that we get here, cardinals. And we like looking at, especially when it snows, you can see we have snow outside, the colorful birds that come. And red cardinals in particular are usually a reference to someone's watching over me. And so these birds, they'll open them, and I'll encourage them to clip them somewhere, on their desk here at home or by their bed, with a thought, someone's always looking over me. Okay, so that's just a fun little gift.
I've also heard the red cardinals singing is a sign of spring.
Right. So you can find lots of ways to use a little gift bird and its meaning. So this is May, again, to show you and your audience. For my kids, I mixed it up. I'm using this plate that has 20 years on it now. My husband had them when he lived in Beijing in the 90s, and he saved them, and my kids love them. So you see, I have 2 here for my kids, and they don't all match, and that works fine, right?
Yeah.
All of us love using the inexpensive wooden chopsticks. I don't know why. We have fancy chopsticks, but these seem to be the favorite. Mm-hmm. These are, again, found in a market. Maybe someone in your audience actually knows what these were originally created for. I use them as candlesticks, but I found them at Galbadian.
They look like for candles, yeah. Maybe
these are lovely
or something. Mm-hmm.
One would be confused maybe that they were even French, but they're Chinese terracotta. Mm. And I for those, and sometimes I put candles in them and sometimes I don't. But you can see here what I've done is using birds because I just love birds. I have a Chinese scroll brush that I got somewhere on my travels in China. And again, it's because of the color, the layering of colors, and the theme being Chinese New Year, what we're trying to celebrate amongst our family. And then, of course, I'm sure by the time it comes around that we actually sit down, I will have incorporated the ox as well. But let me just show you all. I don't believe that one has to use a lot of flowers. I go to friends' houses in China, and they have, China has access to such beautiful flowers. I have one arrangement here, and I'm just going to show you really quickly here. This is what the bouquets look like often when you pick them up from the floral market in China. Yeah. Here's what I do. I get containers, and like my china and my silverware, I have a lot of containers. Okay, can you all see this one okay?
Yeah.
Just this white, it's actually called faux bois. It looks like wood, but it's white painted. And then I'm just going to take a few stems and cut them. I always fill my containers with water, lukewarm water, before I place the flowers.
Can you move the container a little bit into the camera so we can see where, as you were putting them in?
Sure. So here's what I'm doing. I'm not being particular about this. It's not difficult. I don't spend hours arranging flowers. I take just a couple of things and place them in the container. This will be the extent of my floral arranging. I can do more elaborate things, but I don't need to. I'm looking for just a pop of color, the red and gold for Chinese New Year, and that's it. So we keep it simple so that all the while you can focus on the food. I do a lot of this, by the way, the day before.
Wow.
So that,
the day before.
Yeah.
How long does this take you?
Pardon?
How long does this take you?
So I did yesterday all of it in 30 minutes.
That's quick.
It's all being organized beforehand. If you have that closet already, it's really about just grabbing things and placing them. And I just want to share two fun things, and then we can close this part. You know, I say never take things too seriously. And May, I don't know if I've done this when you've come to my home for dinner or lunch, but you know, at the end of the day, it's fun. And
what
these
is
are
that?
balls, and my kids will spend hours playing with them. And look at these, you know, these are 20 cents. And that's just a bag of I might have a little container of accessories or fun things like this down in my linen closet. And lastly, I'll just say for Valentine's Day, this is so simple. We're making painted rocks. So you find rocks in nature, you get a paintbrush or a paint pen, and sit down with your kids and you paint rocks. And look at how pretty they look once you put them at someone's place setting. And who wouldn't feel loved after that? Simple.
你看，大家就觉得我看他做的时候，我现在就想，现在我早上6点钟，我现在就想去摆桌子了。他就把它这么简单，好像是一点儿也不费力气。当然这些东西他都是头一天准备好，他大概花半个小时的时间，最后他撒上去的那个东西就是一种就大概几分钱几毛钱买的那种小球球，他撒在那里，小孩子就可以吃饭的时候就可以玩儿。然后刚才给我们看的那个他的花儿剪的那块，他就说大家对花儿就是有点紧张，觉得哎呀，如果是。要不然呢，就是买来的就花店里头买来的都是扎的很死板的那种东西，但他拿过来就拿一个，他也有一大堆的这些花瓶，放点水，然后剪插起来，它就是一个很简单的目的，把颜色提起来，郁金香红色的和黄边的，就很有中国的气息，然后蜡烛，他总是点蜡烛，午饭的时候他都点蜡烛，就是增加一种温暖的感觉。然后刚才他的理论，你看2个小孩的盘子是那个塑料的中国主题的盘子，她和她老公的是白色的那个盘子。It's absolutely lovely. 最后他问大家，如果是谁他要做火锅，他用的是瑞士吃那个 fondue 奶酪的那个锅，那个小红锅，他放那儿的。他明天要煮那个火锅，如果谁有一个蘑菇底料汤的那个菜谱发给我们，我们发给他。他问我们这 crowdsourcing 来着。
And I would just say, because tea and coffee are such an important part of the meal, I usually put tea and coffee, if I'm here doing it all by myself, I usually have a nice tray for my tea and coffee. here on the side so that when we're all finished, it's my saucers, cups, saucers, spoons, cream, sugar, tea, all kept here.
Do you make the tea already? You have hot water there already?
You know what these are, right? Can you see this?
No, it looks beautiful, but I don't know what it is.
This is a quilted tea cover.
Uh-huh. So pretty.
In my thermal teapot or my silver teapot that was my husband's family. And then I just put the tea warmer on it and I leave it here and it's fine. And then I can not get up so much. That's the whole thing, is having, even having a room set up where I have 2 tables here that I put things on, that as the hostess, I can just do it myself from here if I need to. Of course, having IE is great, but we can't always have IE. And this is where I go to for my extra things.
所以你看在中国有阿姨那肯定很方便哈，但一会儿她就可以把盘子那些收了，然后是上茶和咖啡。但是在美国所有的东西都是 DIY 自己来，他就把他的东西茶，刚才给大家看的那个是他套在他茶壶上的一个保温的套子，他放在两头，这样子他就不用起来乱来乱去的，提前准备好了就很好。It's just lovely. Now, question: Chinese meals are always like 10 dishes showing up.
Right. So if that's if you have mother, grandmother, everyone. This year, I will be doing it all on my own. So I will use my buffet tables to the side to preset food, and then we just pass it or put it on the table where there's room. I tend to think this is where I blend Western and Asian sort of cultures here. To me, the table can get quite cluttered if you put all the food on the table. So having sideboards and a buffet scenario where people get up to use their food. I also have lazy Susans, the rounds that you can do. My grandfather made me one. This year is just different for me. And so it will be the fondue pot with lots of plates on the table full of fruits and vegetables and cheeses and chocolates to put in the pot. But I'll use my buffets to have overflow. But if 20 dishes come, bring them. But I would say sit down and enjoy the meal. Have some real moments of sit down quality conversation, so you're not up and down the entire time.
我就说咱们中国的这些东西菜堆满了，他桌上就没地儿了。他说他的很多菜就是放在他两边，做像自助餐一样的，这就是他中西结合的时候，大家可以传这些吃的，但是桌上呢那就很漂亮的。We have one question from the audience. We're almost out of time already. Sorry, I was so enamored by what you were speaking that I didn't leave room for the audience. Question is, what do you do with all those table accessories afterwards? Do you throw them away or keep them?
Sure.
Like
these little things I will throw away. Everything else on the table I keep.
What are you throwing away?
The little red balls that I put on the table.
What about the place cards?
The place cards, believe it or not, I keep the place cards, and when I have time, I scrapbook them. And I put a note in there of what the dinner was for. So it becomes a conversation for my family, for a keepsake. The one thing that I don't have with you today, that I would say is really special, and I just scrapbooked one. My kids usually write down the menu or draw the color of the menu. So I'll have my son make the menu, and then I keep the menu in the place cards and take some photos and then put it in a scrapbook.
Wow. 那他小孩做他的那个菜单，然后剩下的就刚才说的那个名字的，他给他做成一个小纪念册。Another question: What do you do with all those? Oh, it's the same. Sorry, it's the same question. Okay. Does 大家还有问题吗？我们时间都已经差不多了。Well, someone else, we'll take one more question if there is, but I have one more questions. Share any tips. What are the easy, simple ways to make our daily lives pleasing. I guess you covered a lot of that. But just in case you can consciously think about on a daily basis that could help us to think about.
Sure. I believe strongly in meditation and walks in nature. Anytime you're out in nature and away from your computer, outside, whether the weather is good or bad, even in pollution, mask up and get out there and start observing nature, because I find it's the biggest inspiration for anything I do is to be out in nature. You can see I have shells here. I bring home shells. I bring home rocks. I bring home leaves. So I think being in nature is the thing that I would encourage everyone to do every day if you can.
因为最后马上就要结束了，我就问，每天做点什么给自己的生活增加一点乐趣？去大自然里头散步、走走。只要你有时间离开电脑去外头走一走，就会生活会更好。Yeah, fantastic. Well, this is the last question we will take. Do you retire plates? If you do you throw them away?
I don't throw anything away. We're going through this now at home here. It's a problem. My
Paul deserves some award.
Yeah. I find a way to use it some other way. Even if I had 2 plates, I broke one. The other one's hanging on the wall now. I found a way to incorporate it in a decor in my home. So you can retire plates, and yes, everything can be recycled if you want it to be. If you decide you're tired of it, get rid of it. Don't hang on to it. But I find that even when I'm down to 1 plate, I can hang the plate on the wall or put my earrings in it. I'll find another use for it. But it's good.
他总是upcycle or recycle, right? 这你听不到，大家可能还行。就是哪怕你生活里面这些东西，如果他真的不给你带来什么快乐，你就把它扔掉也好，或者给朋友也好。但是他总是找到一个不同的方法，比如说他有2个盘子，摔了一个，另外一个他就给它挂墙上了，做装饰品。Now, Liz, this being such an inspiration for the year of Ox coming up, do you have any parting words to share with our audience?
Sure. Well, first of all, we can't wait to travel again. I haven't been on a plane in 1 year, and I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm ready to travel again. So let's do our parts to be, very vigilant about getting rid of COVID so we can travel and have more inspirations in the coming year. I would just say I grew up on having access to a farm. My parents and grandmother are still on a farm. The year of the ox is one that reminds me of the importance of the strength and endurance of the ox. And that's who we are as a people. And I look forward to being able to continue to work with our friends in China and in terms of finding a vaccine and a solution that we can all live with COVID so we can get back together. And we can't wait to get back home to Beijing and see our friends there.
Yeah. 我们已经要说再见了，可能还有1、2个问题，今天就没有办法达到了哈。Liz 跟大家说的就是牛年，牛是最坚强也最能吃苦耐劳的一种动物了。希望我们大家都能够坚持过去，只要能够过去，疫情能够过去了，我们的生活一定会越来越好的。所以呢，大家坚持，牛年快乐 ，right？Thank you so much, Liz. This is such an inspiration. I wish you and your family a lot of happy meals at that beautiful table and have a wonderful Chinese New Year meal. We do have one of the audience already shared a recipe. We'll collect them. It's in the chat room, but we'll collect them and share with you later. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, May, you're always an inspiration in terms of all that you do too. So thank you for including me today, and best of luck and wishes to your audience and all of our friends in China. And 春节快乐.
Yeah, 春节快乐，谢谢。Allow me to switch in Chinese to close the event. Yeah, thank you. 谢谢朋友们这1年的相伴哈，真的没有你们的话，我会觉得这1年会非常难过，因为有大家呢，觉得没有白费。 在新的一年里头呢，我们会把这个有关职业提升的讲座放到一些这个付费的群里。有关国际视野的这种生活方式呢，我们仍然会持续的公益来做。欢迎更多的朋友呢能够参加到我们的付费群里，也支持讲堂以后把活动做得更好、更丰富。细节可以联系这个讲堂助理哈。这周末大年初二早上8点，我在美国这边呢要教美国的在网上也是 Room 讲堂教室里头，我们来演示包饺子，也会讲讲云南火腿的故事，欢迎大家参加。祝福各位牛年大吉，幸福安康。Thank you, Liz. Stay warm in the snow and happy Chinese New Year.
Happy Chinese New Year to everyone.
Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.